The Legend of Zelda franchise has quietly been telling one of the most disturbing stories in gaming history. Beneath the charm, every timeline is filled with genocide, divine failures, and curses that guarantee suffering forever. Today, I'm breaking down the darkest implications hidden across the entire Zelda timeline, starting with a hero who was saved by a miracle and destroyed by it at the same time. Breath of the Wild Link didn't choose to sleep for 100 years. He was dying. After being overwhelmed by corrupted guardians at Fort Hateno, his body was placed inside the Shrine of Resurrection, an untested Sheikah facility that had never actually been used before. The wounds were so catastrophic that healing took a full century. Here's where it gets dark. When Link wakes up, he has zero memories. Every person he ever knew is dead. The only traces of his former life are recorded on a device he doesn't recognize. And while he was unconscious, Zelda was holding Calamity Ganon in a magical seal, alone for 100 years. No backup, no relief, no guarantee Link would ever open his eyes again. The technology designed to save the hero effectively guaranteed the destruction of everything he was supposed to protect. Hyrule didn't pause while Link healed. It collapsed, communities scattered, monsters overran the landscape, and an entire civilization was reduced to campfires and ruin. But if you think waking up with no memory in a dead world is bad, wait until you hear what Zelda's ancestors had to sacrifice just to give Hyrule a fighting chance. Sonia's murder. Queen Sonia didn't just die. She was the founding queen of Hyrule, the woman who helped build the entire kingdom from nothing, and Ganondorf killed her to steal her secret Stone of Time. But here's where it gets truly disturbing. The moment Ganondorf took that stone, it transformed into something that had never existed before, a secret Stone of Darkness. He didn't just gain power, he created a completely new category of evil. And then there's Zelda, already stranded in the distant past with no way home. She learns from Mineru that there is one final option: draconification, swallowing her secret stone to become the Light Dragon, a being powerful enough to bathe the Master Sword in sacred energy across millennia, so Link can one day destroy Ganondorf. The catch? The process permanently destroys the individual's consciousness, not their body, their soul. Everything that makes them who they are, gone forever. That's not some triumphant hero moment. It's self-annihilation as the price of salvation, and that's the real horror. Both Sonia and Zelda are powerful, intelligent, and capable, and none of it matters. They exist inside a cursed system designed to produce this suffering across generations. The system doesn't care how strong you are. It just needs you to lose something. But if you think being trapped in a cycle of sacrifice is bad, wait until you hear about a seal that literally requires heroism to keep breaking and remaking itself forever. Four Swords Adventures. The Four Sword is the only weapon in existence capable of defeating Vati, the Wind Mage. It is also the only reason Vati keeps coming back, which is, not ideal. Here's the thing. Vati cannot be permanently destroyed. Every encounter ends the same way. The hero defeats him, seals him inside the Four Sword, and everyone goes home thinking the problem is solved. It's not. The sword doesn't kill Vati. It stores him, like a magical filing cabinet for an unkillable wind demon. And in Four Swords Adventures, Ganondorf figured this out. He manipulates Link into drawing the Four Sword from its pedestal, because it's the only way to fight the threats facing Hyrule. Noble, heroic, exactly what a chosen hero should do. But the moment Link pulls that blade, Vati is released from his previous seal. The act of wielding the hero's weapon literally resurrects the villain. So you need the sword to stop Vati, but using the sword guarantees Vati will eventually return. Every Link who draws that blade performs the most courageous act of their generation, while ensuring the next generation faces the exact same threat. Heroism doesn't solve the problem. Heroism is the mechanism that keeps the problem alive. Ganondorf knew all of this. He used Vati as a distraction while he consolidated his own power. Vati isn't just a villain. He's a resource that smarter villains exploit on demand, because some fool with a green hat will always pull that sword. But if a cursed sword sounds bad, wait until you see what Hyrule looks like after centuries of this kind of thing piling up. The post-apocalyptic decline. Here's something that will completely change how you see the very first Zelda game. The kingdom you explored in 1986, it was already a corpse. The original Legend of Zelda exists in the Downfall timeline, the most tragic branch of the entire franchise. This is the timeline where Link was defeated by Ganondorf in Ocarina of Time. The hero fell, evil won, and Hyrule never recovered. After the imprisoning war, the Knights of Hyrule were nearly annihilated. The nobility was depleted, infrastructure was permanently damaged, and that wasn't a rough decade followed by a comeback story. That was centuries of irreversible decline with zero recovery. By the time the original game begins, the grand unified kingdom from Ocarina of Time is gone forever. What's left are scattered settlements under constant threat from Ganon's forces. No standing army, no functioning government, just survivors. And when Princess Zelda calls for a hero, She's not summoning some legendary chosen one destined to fulfill an ancient prophecy. She's desperately looking for literally anyone capable of preventing immediate conquest. That's not a grand adventure. That's a distress signal from a dying civilization. The entire first Zelda game is a post-apocalyptic survival story, and nobody in 1986 realized they were playing through the aftermath of a failure that happened centuries earlier. One moment of defeat in Ocarina of Time cascaded into generations of permanent damage. But if the fall of Hyrule's kingdom is disturbing, wait until you see what happened to the Sacred Realm itself, a link to the past. The Sacred Realm is supposed to be the holiest place in existence. The goddesses created it as a repository for the Triforce, the single most powerful artifact in the universe. It should be untouchable, incorruptible. Turns out, no. Here's the thing nobody really stops to think about. The Sacred Realm functions as a spiritual mirror. It reflects the true nature of whoever touches the Triforce. So when Ganondorf forced his way in with nothing but conquest and hatred in his heart, the realm itself started twisting to match his soul, not destroyed, corrupted. It became the Dark World, a nightmare parallel of Hyrule, where every lake, every mountain, every village is reflected through the lens of pure malice, which is, not ideal. But here's where it gets genuinely terrifying. The corruption isn't permanent. Heroes can cleanse the Sacred Realm and restore it. Sounds great, right? Except it keeps happening. Every single time evil gains access, the same corruption repeat. The most sacred space in all of creation has a built-in vulnerability that the goddesses either couldn't or wouldn't fix. In a link to the past, Ganon enters the Sacred Realm and wishes upon the full Triforce. The realm transforms into a complete mirrored dimension populated with twisted versions of everything in the light. That's not a military victory. That's a metaphysical one. A perversion of divine order at the most fundamental level possible. The goddesses created a system where their ultimate source of power could be weaponized against them by a single individual with bad intention. That's not a flaw in the design. That is the design. But if you think corrupting heaven is bad, wait until you hear about the curse that made sure none of this would ever stop. Demise's curse. Every Zelda game you've ever played is a tragedy. You just didn't know it yet. At the end of Skyward Sword, Demise loses. Link drives the Master Sword through him. The Demon King crumbles, and the day is saved. Except it isn't, because with his dying breath, Demise doesn't beg for mercy or swear revenge. He does something far worse. He binds Link's spirit and Zelda's goddess bloodline to an eternal cycle of conflict with incarnations of his hatred. Not a temporary curse, a permanent cosmic binding that will echo through every era of Hyrule's existence until the end of time. And here's where it gets genuinely unsettling. The English translation softens this considerably. In the original Japanese, Demise uses the word ran, which is the Buddhist concept of samsara, the cycle of death and rebirth. He also uses maunan, meaning obsessive attachment that perpetuates spiritual suffering. This isn't generic fantasy villain dialogue. This is a cosmological sentence rooted in concepts of karma and cyclical torment. Demise isn't just saying, "I'll be back." He's saying existence itself will punish you forever. But here's the kicker. The Japanese text also reveals that the curse doesn't just carry Demise's hatred. It carries the curse of the entire demon tribe. That means the threat facing every future Link and Zelda isn't one recurring bad guy. It's an entire category of supernatural malevolence hardwired into the fabric of reality. This retroactively poisons every victory in the series. Every hero who picked up a sword believing they were choosing to fight was actually fulfilling a predetermined pattern of suffering they never agreed to. Nobody in this franchise has ever truly won. They've just reset the clock. And if a cosmic curse binding souls across eternity sounds bad, wait until you hear what Hyrule's gods did to an entire civilization that stepped out of line. Twilight Princess. The goddesses of Hyrule are not benevolent, and I can prove it with one story. Long before the events of Twilight Princess, a tribe of Hylians attempted to claim the Triforce using dark sorcery. They want power. That was their crime. Ambition. In response, the goddesses ordered the spirits of light to strip these sorcerers of everything. Their magic was ripped from them and sealed into the fused shadow. Then they were banished entirely from the land of light, shoved through the mirror of twilight into a parallel dimension of perpetual twilight. No trial. No proportional response, just erasure. But here's where it gets genuinely disturbing. Over generations, the exile interlopers physically changed. Their bodies adapted to the inhospitable environment of the Twilight Realm until they were no longer recognizable as the Hylians they once were. They became the Twilight, a completely different race. Their homeland, their identity, their very biology was taken from them, not by a villain, by the god. And the Twilight alive during the events of Twilight Princess, they didn't do anything. Their descendants, they're permanently barred from the land of light because of something their ancestors did generations ago. That's not justice. That's inherited collective punishment ordered by the divine creators of the universe. The crime was wanting the Triforce. The punishment was the complete annihilation of a people's identity across centuries, and every future generation paying for it in perpetuity. The Zelda universe has a divine justice system, and it functions exactly like a generational curse, which is, not ideal. But if divine punishment across bloodlines sounds extreme, wait until you hear about the moment the timeline itself shattered because the hero lost. Ocarina of Time. Here's the thing about the Zelda timeline split. Two of them make sense. In one, Link grows up and defeats Ganondorf as an adult. In the other, Zelda sends him back to his childhood so he can live the life he lost. Both are deliberate choices made by characters with agency. The third split is different. The third split exists because Link died. The Downfall timeline is the only branch in Zelda's entire multiverse created by failure. Not by a hero's decision, not by a princess's wisdom. It exists because the Chosen One walked into that final battle with Ganondorf and lost. One fight, one loss, centuries of suffering. And here's where it gets uncomfortable. You never saw it happen. Players beat Ocarina of Time in 1998, watched the credits roll, and moved on thinking Link saved the day. Nobody knew that somewhere in the official canon, there was a version of that exact same fight where your hero got destroyed. Nintendo didn't reveal this until 2011, buried in a Japanese art book called Hyrule Historia. For over a decade, an entire timeline branch existed in silence. In that branch, Ganondorf ripped the Triforce of Courage straight from Link's body, took the Triforce of Wisdom from Zelda, obtained the complete Triforce, and used it to become the Demon King Ganon. The imprisoning war followed, then centuries of decline, then every single game in the Fallen Hero branch. A Link to the Past, the Oracle games, the original Legend of Zelda. All of them trace back to one moment where the Chosen One wasn't enough. That's the real horror. Not that evil exists, but that prophecy can fail. Destiny isn't a guarantee, it's a suggestion. But if the Downfall timeline shows what happens when the hero falls, Majora's Mask shows something arguably worse. What happens when the hero wins, but the world he saved doesn't care. Majora's Mask, Termina has God, 4 of them. Giant, ancient, powerful guardian deities whose entire purpose is to protect the land from annihilation. And they can't do a single thing unless a 10-year-old kid plays them a song on a magic ocarina. The 4 giants are the only force in Termina capable of stopping the moon from crashing into Clocktown and wiping out every living thing on the continent. But their intervention isn't automatic. It's not like they see the moon falling and go, oh, we should probably handle that. They have to be deliberately summoned by someone who has recovered their mask, learned their songs, and has the magical means to call upon them. Without that specific sequence, the giants just sit there, doing nothing, while the world ends. And who's the only person capable of pulling that off? Link, a child who stumbled into Termina by accident while chasing the Skull Kid through the wood. If he'd gone left instead of right, Termina would have been obliterated. The entire survival of a civilization hinges on whether one kid shows up with the right instruments and enough free time to solve everybody's problems in a 3-day window. But here's where it gets worse. Even when all 4 giants plant their feet and hold the moon back with everything they've got, they still can't finish the job. The moment Majora's Mask detaches from the Skull Kid and enters the moon itself, the giants become a stalling tactic. The gods of Termina, at full power, working together, are reduced to buying time for a child, and the ancient ones who originally sealed Majora's Mask away. They couldn't destroy it either. The best they could manage was imprisonment, locking the mask in shadow and hoping nobody would ever find it. Termina doesn't live in safety. It lives in a gap between catastrophes, protected by gods who need permission to act and a seal that has already failed once. But if you think a civilization held hostage by its own helpless deities is dark, wait until you hear what the gods of Hyrule did when they decided to solve a problem permanently. Spoiler, they drowned everyone. The Great Flood. The goddesses didn't save Hyrule, they drowned it. Here's what happened. In the adult timeline, after Link was sent back to his childhood at the end of Ocarina of Time, Hyrule was left without a hero. No chosen one, no legendary swordsman, nobody. So when Ganondorf inevitably broke free from the Sacred Realm, there was literally 0 resistance waiting for him. He walked right back into a kingdom with no defense, no champion, and no plan. And the goddess's response was, somehow, worse than the problem. Rather than send a new hero, rather than empower the sages, rather than do literally anything constructive, the goddesses chose to flood the entire kingdom of Hyrule beneath an ocean. Every town, every castle, every field gone. The people were told to flee to the mountaintops, which eventually became the scattered islands of the Great Sea. An entire civilization erased. But here's the part that makes it even worse. Before the flood, the goddesses sealed a portion of the kingdom inside an enchanted air pocket beneath the waves. Not to save anyone, not to preserve Hyrule's legacy. They did it because they couldn't figure out how to permanently destroy Ganondorf. So they buried him alive alongside the ruins of the kingdom they just sacrificed and called it a day. That's not divine intervention, that's divine surrender with extra steps. The people who survived eventually built new lives on the Great Sea. New generations grew up on tiny islands with 0 memory of the world beneath the waves. Kids sailed around not knowing that an entire entire kingdom sat frozen in time directly below them. The goddesses created Hyrule. They shaped its mountains, filled its rivers, breathed life into its people. And when they couldn't solve one problem, they destroyed all of it. Not because Hyrule was beyond saving, because saving it was harder than erasing it. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, click the video on the screen now.